Hey everyone, so welcome to this special session. We have a group of residents, fellows, attendings, and we especially want to talk about the upcoming season, what will change from the students or the applicants' perspective, how should they prepare, and also what we think the programs will look for in the applicants this year, how will they assess the application, how will they look at from an interview perspective. So we have all these topics that we want to interact with our panel. So what the applicants
Mm-hmm.
should be doing now.
Sure. First of all, thanks for the wishes, Chad, and good luck with your fellowship applications. So going back, I'm just gonna elaborate on my experience and what we would do differently this year. So far, whenever I've been involved with the interview process, my program director and the chair have always told me pick a candidate who you would like to have a cup of coffee with and who you can take call with. Because calls are extremely high stress, and we're taking so many calls, and you don't want to be and it's very especially for anesthesia, the team really matters on who you're on call with, because it's like a life or death situation when it comes to intubations and the traumas that we deal with. So you don't want to be with somebody who you cannot rely on. So that's who we pick, because to be honest, whoever comes, especially international graduates, they all have the same scores, they all have tailored the CVs pretty much the same, they all look pretty much the same on paper. And so the candidates may not know, they think that if they did really well on the day of the interview, then that's how it's going to go. But that's not how it is, because sometimes we have breakfast with the candidates or lunch with the candidate, and there is one candidate who had spectacular scores, spectacular research, and he was just awesome, and everybody who interviewed him were amazed. But he let slip how he drove a bunch of his friends home while he was drunk to one of the residents, and they were like, oh, he told us this, and so he was a big no, we did not match him. So we are always trying to look out for that factor. And I know our interview questions are also different. We would be okay, you accidentally gave somebody the wrong medication in the operating room, what are you going to do? Are you going to own up and tell your attending? You could have just given Benadryl instead of Zofran, which is not going to do anything to the patient, but are you still going to be honest about it? Are you just not going to tell anything? And it's funny how people come up with the most weirdest answers actually. And instead of choosing to be honest, they'll be like, oh, nothing happened to the patients, I'm not going to say anything. It's just people have to be aware of that, because that's the thing that we're going to look for, because all the CVs and all the scores, everything is the same. We're trying to look for honesty and integrity in the interviews. And also what Raina and others mentioned, it's the same. You have to dress appropriately with a good background, and your body language will matter. And thing that I notice a lot with international graduates is that they kind of look at sample CVs and they write their CVs accordingly to make it look interesting. If you say your hobby is painting, and I know especially at UT Houston, there was Dr. Williams who, if you said in your hobby that you like painting, he would give you a piece of paper and he would give you material and he would ask you to draw something or paint something for you on the spot. And then there was one person who said that he loves music and he actually plays the piano very well. And we had a big piano in our grand room's conference room, and he walked him all the way over there and asked him to play something, and this guy did not know to play. And since this is going to be virtual and this is going to be at home, so if you say you're an avid guitarist or something and you don't have a guitar at home or something, I don't know, it's just don't lie blatantly on your CV, because now that's all they're going to look for. They're going to do the background research. They're going to if you have done any rotations at all, observership somewhere, they're going to reach out to those programs and ask, how is this person? Because they're not able to assess you in person, how we've been doing all these years. The pre-interview dinner actually plays a large role on how we rank our residents who are incoming residents, because even regardless of how the interview day goes, they always ask us for input on how the residency interview dinner was and who we would like to work with, especially in a very team-based surgery or anesthesia programs. They ask the residents to pick whom they would like to work with next year. So since that factor has kind of gone away this year with virtual interviews, they're going to look more for people who they know, or they're definitely going to look at your Facebook page and social media page and try to get a gauge on how. So all of these factors definitely. and try like not to exaggerate anything too much. You may like to play the guitar, but you may not be a good guitar player, but you might like to like exaggerate and say that you're really good, but if they ask you to play and you can't, then you're not going to match there. So just all these little things to keep in mind, I think, because this year is going to be very different. And if you've had like a couple of if you're lucky enough to get any US clinical experience, then to make a good impression, especially with the residents that you're working with, because everybody knows that you have a different relationship with your peers compared to your attendings, because you're going to be on your best behavior in front of attendings, and it's going to be different with a first year resident or an intern, but their input matters a lot, so that interaction is very important. And if you're just stuck in India and you haven't been able to get any clinical experience in the US, I would say like still be actively involved with COVID related stuff, because everything is new. US is much advanced, but we still don't know. We've been fighting whether to give steroids, not to give steroids, whether to give chloroquine, not to give chloroquine. Like, we have no clue how to deal with this disease, honestly. So they do like to look at research and data from other countries and what they're doing in other countries. And I know in India, they're big on dialysis, and they believe for a while that dialysis helps the patients more than, putting them on ECMO or plasmapheresis here versus. So everybody is like eager to know about data from other countries. So if you can do some clinical experience with COVID or the pandemic back in India, at least, I think it'll make an impact. And if you can speak about it a little bit, then they will be happy to hear your input on that. Because honestly, there's no right or wrong answer right now, and everybody is just looking at to hear about your experience basically, and whether you've been doing something during this pandemic. So I think that's one way to like make yourself look interesting during interviews, and show that if they're recruiting people here, that you're here to work, and to work during the pandemic, because that's what they're looking for.
Thank you, Karuna, for this extensive kind of guidance. So Rana, let me go back to you as we try to wrap up. Anything else you think the students should be doing as they prepare for this season?
I mean, I think if we listen to everything that everyone's been saying and my own experiences, I think now than ever, you kind of need to just be as genuine as possible on your application. You don't have to go around, like, just like Karuna said, don't invent things on your CV. Try to show them who you really are, right? So if you haven't had a lot of time to develop a lot of hobbies because you've spent so much time moving around from place to place and preparing for these foreign exams and all that, then just be open about saying it. I would say just be able to communicate your journey. Communication will be a really big thing, especially like in an interview. You're not looking to impress at this time, you're looking to relate. Whoever your PD is, he might be completely demographically completely unrelated to you, but because this pandemic it's sort of forced people to relate to each other. The pandemic is common to all of us, right? So at this point, you have gone through something that your PD or your interviewer has also gone through. So find ways to relate. Don't find ways to be over unique. Be focused in what you're going there to do. Your CV, your application should point towards that. And, just be an adult about it. You're not, at this point, they're not looking for students. They're looking for people prepared to take on the responsibility. And your CV, everything should point towards that. Don't just be yourself. I think that's like literally the thing, and be able to communicate who you are. Practice doing that. Get comfortable doing that. Okay. Is what I advise, and what I've been trying to help my mentees do.
Thank you. Shailja, any last comments, anything which we may have missed?
So I think the things for applicants to focus on this season is LORs are going to really be very important. So you need more than strong LORs in this particular season when you've not had a chance to do a lot of broad US clinical experience and wide variety of programs. So make use of the limited experiences that you have been to for getting some US clinical experience, and impress your others so that you actually get a strong LOR this season. Pull your contacts. Make use of your contacts that you have in every nook and corner of the country, but do it in a polite way. Don't just I know you from 10 years ago. I've never been in touch with you in the last 10 years, but can you please put in a word for me to get this interview? That is not how it works. You establish a rapport, you start, connections, pulling out your connections from now on and interact with them daily and make a request in a smart and polite way to put in a word on your behalf. And I think your personal statement is the other thing. So given the limited opportunities you have in acquiring US clinical experience at this point, I think you have to have a very matured personal statement. I was looking at a personal statement this morning, and it seemed to me like for this person who's had more than 10 or 15 years of clinical experience, it sounded like, is this personal statement written by maybe a teenager? Or maybe a teenager would do a better job at writing this. So make sure that you spend a lot of time trying to revise that personal statement, and that's the only way you can show yourself. That is literally your voice. If you have not had a chance to rotate personally with people around in this country during this season. So I think it is important that you get a lot of input for your personal statement and have it tailored to what you have done, what you have learned, and what you want to actually achieve. I think those would be my tips for now for the applications to go in.
Thank you. Chad, any closing comments? Anything we missed?
Sure. So nothing too new, but something that I've been reminding my mentees and even just, friends and family in the medical field and that are currently medical students is a lot of individuals, and my mentees have brought up that they feel very isolated and disadvantaged, that they're not able to have these externships that maybe individuals they know that are 5 years senior to them were able to take advantage of. I just want to remind everybody that whether you're an IMG, an AMG, my medical school right now isn't having any externship or external rotation. So everybody very much is in the same situation, and extrapolating out to other fields, even people that are in sales or people that are accounting are staying at home. So everybody really is having this kind of isolating experience. And I'm just reminding all my mentees that they're not alone in that, and to not feel too overly disadvantaged by that situation, because whether it be them, another mentee, or even AMG, people aren't able to take advantage of those in-person rotations.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Karuna, any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything. So yeah, basically LORs, personal statement, and being as genuine as possible, and contacts. Definitely contacts is going to play a huge role, I think, and they should start working on that. And like Shailaja said, not to be too aggressive and rude about it, just be polite and down to earth and reach out to contacts to see how they can help, because I think that will play a major role this year. Programs are going to be looking for applicants who they already know, or somebody who can put in a good word for them versus ranking a complete stranger. I think that's going to play a major role this year.
Well, thank you, everyone. This was great. I'm sure students will find it very useful. Your perspectives, much appreciated. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you, and good luck to all the students.